setting new standards in podcast excellence. You have joined the WBT, fully focused on business and taxes. Here is your host, Michael Lodge.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.
And welcome to the WBT. This is Michael Lodge. I'm glad that you joined me this morning. Well, I tell you, for the last 2 days, I've went out and tried to work on my garden and work on the porch that I'm building in the front and starting to look at tearing down the back porch. I'm doing a full rehab on this old house in South Carolina. And I tell you, every single day I learn something new. I learned that it's really hard work, for one thing. But the other issue is that I keep learning more and more about gardening. I've decided to take up a new hobby because I'm going to have so much new blueberries and so much grapes and other fruits that are coming off my garden this year that I've decided I'm going to study a little bit about winemaking. And maybe make 2 or 3 or 4 bottles of wine, just to experiment, just to learn how the process is done. So I got 2 books, so I'm learning and studying how to make wines out of watermelon. You should see my watermelon grove. It is now becoming really big. When I first planted the seeds, I was thinking, man, I hope something grows. But now I've got a whole bunch of plants coming up, so I think I'm going to have a lot of watermelon. So why not take a couple or 2 watermelon and turn it into a watermelon wine just to see how it turns out. It's always fun to try new things. I think that's a good thing about life, is that every day there's something new to learn. Something new. I bought some gladiolus flowers, bulbs the other day. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to learn how to plant gladiolus. So I've been studying. Thank God for YouTube that you can go there and study up on all these various topics that are out there. So every single day, and I encourage each and every single one of you that every day should be about learning at least one thing new. If you can accomplish learning one thing new each day, you're going to be a very smart person by the end of 2018. Speaking about learning something new, I was reading a really good article in Money Magazine early this morning, and it said that 40% of Americans, that's you and me, cannot afford an emergency of $500. So that means any kind of emergency that comes up where it costs us $500, we don't have the $500. Now just think, if it was $1,000, we'll probably all go bankrupt. Or being close to it. How many of you have taken your tax refunds and created an emergency account? An emergency account that is in another account that you say to yourself, I am not going to touch that unless it is an emergency. I bet none of you have done that. The ideal goal is to build up an emergency fund of $1,000 and then build onto that as time goes by. A lot of you who are getting $4,000 refunds, you should have, one, build up an emergency fund and paid off your debt. But when I talked to you, what you were going to do, you were going to go on a vacation instead. A lot of you, of my Filipino clients, said, hey, I'm going back to the Philippines. But you should have asked yourself, do I have $1,000 in an emergency fund just in case something happens? That should have been your number one question. And then the second question should be, have I paid off my debts? I always tell you, debt is a evil word in my vocabulary. I have no debt. And I think that as Americans become smarter as they learn the process of personal finance, that they will find that having debt is not a good thing. It's not a good thing. So we were just talking, I said 40% of Americans can't afford a $500 emergency fund. So I think we need to talk a little bit because the IRS just came out with a publication. And I did a blog. If you go to www.wbtpod.com, you will see a blog in there, and it's entitled Taxpayers Who Usually Itemize Deductions Should Check Their Withholding to Avoid Tax Surprises. So what happened is that the Internal Revenue Service is encouraging taxpayers who typically itemize their deductions on Schedule A of the Form 1040 to use the Withholding Calculator, which is on their website at irs.gov. So they need to perform a paycheck checkup because you may not be taking enough taxes out, or you may be taking way too much out. So people who have itemized before may be affected by changes from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's the Tax Reform Act that Congress just passed. Taxpayers who itemize should use the IRS Withholding Calculator to make sure their employers have taken out the right amount. And that's really up to you. It's not up to the employer. It's up to you to file that new W-4 to tell them what should be taken out. So you need to use the Withholding Calculator on irs.gov and figure out what should be taken out of your paychecks. So there needs to be withholding. You need to be withholding the appropriate amount of tax from your paycheck, determined by your financial situation. So the law changes, the new tax reform changes are effective in January 2018, and they will affect the tax returns of taxpayers who file in 2019. The new law makes a number of major changes, including limiting the deductions for state and local taxes, limiting the deduction for home mortgage interest in certain cases. And if you want to know more about that, go to Internal Revenue 2018-32 for more information on that. And then excluding deductions for employee business expenses, tax preparation fees, and investment expenses, including investment management fees and deposit box fees, and investment expenses from pass-through entities. All of those are gone. So that tax preparation fee that you paid last year to your tax practitioner, it's gone. You can no longer deduct that. So you need to sit down with your tax practitioner, and I really encourage you to do this as soon as possible, because we're almost halfway through the year of 2018, and you have to deal with the new 2018 laws under the Tax Reform Act. So sit down with your tax practitioner and go over what you need to do, because if you've paid too little in and you have no reserve account set aside or an emergency fund to set aside to pay this, you're going to be in trouble, because you're part of that 40% probably that have no way of paying a $400 emergency. And in taxes, it's a big emergency, let me tell you. Now, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it nearly doubled the standard deductions and changed several itemized deductions. Some individuals who formerly itemized may now find it more beneficial to take the standard deduction, and this could affect how much a taxpayer needs to have their employer withhold from their pay. Also, even those who continue to itemize should check their withholding because of changes made in the new tax law. So I've done this several times, and I started doing it in January, of telling you people out there that you need to sit down with your tax practitioner, especially right now in mid-year, and see whether or not if you need to file a new W-4 with your employer. In fact, the W-4 form has changed from what you filed before. So you need to be proactive, and you need to sit down and start looking at your withholdings, looking at what you may or may not be able to deduct on your itemized deductions for 2018. And be very proactive in making sure that your taxes are in compliance with what needs to be done. It's up to you to do this. Your tax accountant isn't going to call you and say, hey, let's talk about this. No, it's up to you to sit down and say, listen, I need to make an appointment to go in and talk to my tax practitioner because I need to know if I'm taking out the right amount of money to pay for my taxes. Do it. I'm telling you, it's vital that you get this done. You're halfway through the year. It's almost June. A couple more weeks and it'll be June. And we'll be halfway done with 2018. Can you believe it? Time goes by so fast. Goes by fast. By the way, any of you who have really good wine recipes, send them in to me. I'd really like to hear about them at www.wbtpod.com. Send it into mlodge, M-L-O-D-G-E, at lodge, L-O-D-G-E-co.com. And I would be more than happy to receive them. Because as you know, I'm trying to learn this process. I ordered my winemaking kit, and so I'm hoping that it will be here very soon. It's fun to learn. But it's also no fun when you haven't taken the right amount of taxes out and you owe at the end of the year. You become the part of the 40%. This is Mike Lodge, and I'll talk with you soon. Have a great day. Also, if you have any questions, send me an email at mlodge@lodge-co.com, and I will answer any question that you have. Have a great day, and I'll talk with you soon.
Thank you for listening to the WBT with Michael Lodge. Join us again tomorrow as we explore more about business and taxes. Follow us on iHeartRadio and go to our podcast website at www.wbtpod.com and listen to all of our podcasts and read our blogs.
This is brought to you by Lodge & Co., a business and tax advisory firm where your success is our goal. Call us today toll-free at 888-681-1518 or visit us at www.lodge-co.com and learn more about what we can do for you. Lodge & Co., your source for sound business and tax services.